I just finished putting together my two-stage dust collection system. Before I put this together, I was just using a simple 2-horse shop vac, and it works pretty well. One of the problems that it has on the inside, there's a dry filter, and it was getting clogged up really fast with the fine dust particles that were coming off of the sander. So I decided to put this together and hopefully kind of minimize the strain on the shop vac that clog was creating. This has worked out really well. I've had it done for about a week or two, and it's working much better than I expected it to. I didn't come up with this system. This isn't my design per se. I tweaked it a little bit to match the materials that I had on hand. I didn't want to spend any money putting this together, and I managed to do that with just the stuff that I had. So I'm going to break this down a little bit closer and show you what I've got going on in this 2-bucket primary stage, I guess you could say, the first stage. It's got a time baffle inside here. I would say the last YouTube video that I watched before I really just decided to take a shot at this was Matthias Wendell's 2-bucket system that he had. But again, there are a lot of them on YouTube, a lot of great examples of how to put these together, and everybody has their own little spin, and looks to me like everybody makes it work for them. So I'm going to break this down a little bit, primarily focusing on this, kind of show you what I did and some of the things that I tried and one of the things that didn't work. So here's the 2 buckets that are torn apart. Basically you have an upper bucket where really all the action takes place, and then you have a lower bucket that is really just the collector of the dust and the larger sawdust particles. Inside of this bucket right here, I have the time baffle, and I didn't do a whole lot of research into figuring out what this was going to take to put this together. This is 360 degrees, obviously, to make a circle, and I just did an opening on this piece of plywood here that is about an inch gap, and it goes around 270 degrees. I don't know whether that is critical to the success of this, but so far it seems to be working for me. Here's my inlet coming from my tool, and it's set off to the side, and the way these seem to work is as the vacuum is turned on and it starts to pull in the dust, creates a bit of a vortex, and the dust will kind of circle around the outside of this tube and eventually fall down to the side of this baffle here. And then this baffle is also there to keep the vacuum from pulling it back up out of your collection reservoir once it starts to fill up. This tube right here, which goes to the vacuum itself, is epoxied into this piece of particle board here, and then the whole setup is attached to this bucket by some screws underneath with a bead of silicone on the inside. I think sealing this up as you put it together to make sure that it's airtight, that you have an enclosed system, is important for the success of one of these setups. So here's some details of my upper bucket. On the inlet portion here, I have an old fitting from my previous shop vac that died, and so I use that, and it fits perfectly the hoses that go off to the tool. Created a box that has the same shape as the bucket here, and I just did that by actually taking a piece of paper, laying it on here, and getting the outside circumference of the circle, and then just transferring that to a couple of pieces of 1/2-inch plywood. This box is attached from the inside using screws, and in between the bucket and this inlet box I have some double-sided foam tape to help seal that up, make sure that I'm not getting any air leaks into the system. Inside the inlet here I have a rectangle cut out, and the size of that hole doesn't cover the entirety of the inlet box. That's primarily to in my mind at least, create that vortex effect where the dust comes in and it starts to circle around and drops down through the baffle. Also on the inside you can see that I've got a piece of pipe here. The opening of this pipe, which is the outlet of this bucket and goes to the vacuum, sits down lower than the inlet here. Again, theoretically allowing that dust to settle down before it actually gets an opportunity to be pulled back into the vacuum. Everything in here is dry fitted, so if I want to change the length of this pipe I can. If that doesn't work, so far it has been. On the other side of the elbow that sits on top, I've just got some screws here holding that whole setup in place, and there's a hole that's been cut into the top of the bucket to accompany that elbow. When I first put this together, I had some dry filter material left over from the first shop vac, and I thought I'd put a piece here to kind of create an extra filter stage that the dust would have to travel through. That presented a problem because it clogged up immediately. I was only able to use this vacuum for a few minutes, and then I could hear the vacuum starting to struggle. So I took that off, and so far it's working out just fine. So looking at the tine baffle again, it's just a piece of plywood off of an old rope spool. This is a gap here of 1 inch. So this side of the tine baffle represents the circumference of the bucket itself, and then this cutout is approximately 1 inch. And the cutout portion is about 3/4 of this circle, or 270 degrees. Yes, I do have a piece of plywood here covering the hole that was part of the spool, and it doesn't seem to be presenting any problem. When this is in place, it is attached by some screws from the outside, and the opening here starts just off of the edge of the inlet here. So you can see the edge of the inlet is here. This opening ends here and starts over here. I don't know if the placement of that is super critical. The nice thing about the setup here is if something's not working and I want to tweak with it, if I get that ambitious, I can always just pull these screws out, turn this either direction, and put it back together, and then just plug the holes. But so far I don't see any problems with the way this is set up. So my 2-bucket system here is a little different than others I've seen, in that this bucket here happens to be a 6 or a 7 gallon, I'm not real sure, but it is bigger than this one here. And one thing that I didn't expect was the inside diameter of this bucket to be the same as the outside diameter of that bucket. Well, it turned out really well for me. All I had to do was cut off the top lip on the 5-gallon bucket, and it fits nice and snug inside of this lower bucket. I didn't have to come up with a way to hold these 2 buckets together on top of each other. So I got lucky on that one. So the dust collection system is all assembled. You can see the hose from the tool going to the inlet here on the first bucket. From the top we have the pipes that come out and go down to the shop vac. Nothing there is glued. Everything's just dry fitted. This coupling here is from the old shop vac, and it fits inside the tube as well as inside the inlet on the shop vac itself. I've also built a cart for this to make it mobile around the shop, and I've put a few of the aspects of that build together in a video, and I'll put that up on my channel as well. Thanks for watching.